Okay, welcome back everyone to the Efficiency for Access Design Challenge webinar series. This is the second to last one I'm hosting this year. Then we got some special ones lined up for you with a slightly different format, some special guest hosts. So I hope you're all looking forward to that. The next one coming up is on Monday, this coming Monday, Valentine's Day. We got a Valentine's Day webinar. As usual, I'm your convener today, Sean. I'm joined today by my colleague Jackie, as usual, who you can interact with on the chat. So she'll be managing the chat room. If you have any questions throughout the event, feel free to send them directly to her. If you don't want to send them to the main room. So we're excited to have you all here, both live and on the recording on YouTube or on CrowdSolve if you're watching it there. Some of you may joined us since we began this series, and this is a reminder that all the recordings are available on the webinar and on the CrowdSolve page. So if you want to refer back or you didn't get a chance to watch them, just go ahead and watch them there. The post-event materials, such as any additional readings, as well as these slides, will be available on both those channels as well. So as I mentioned, Jackie will be here in the chat today, and if you have any questions, please feel free to send them to her. The same goes for the Q&A portion of the event. If you have any questions that you don't want to address to the whole room, but would like to do it more anonymously, please feel free to send them to Jackie. That's Jackie Garcia in the chat. So as usual, a bit of housekeeping before we begin. The webinar and its transcript are being recorded. They'll be available online throughout through the channels I mentioned before. So if you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your video and or mute yourself during this section of the event. And then today we'll be hearing from 3 speakers who I will introduce you to in a moment. When they're presenting, please mute yourself to avoid any distractions. However, we encourage you to turn on both your mic and video for the Q&A portion of the event. It'll be great to get some live questions today. If you feel brave enough to turn on your video, turn on your mic. But we also have, if you want to do that, we have a hand raising function. So that's just in the toolbar at the top of your page, I think in the far right. And you can just click raise your hand and we'll call upon you. Again, we're also open to questions in the chat throughout the event. We'll pick them up at the end. And feel free to send those to the whole room or to Jackie. I also encourage our speakers to participate in the chat if you would like, if you find the time. If you want to share any additional materials, pose any questions to our audience, or engage whenever you have the time, that would be great. So if you don't get this fill in don't get your fill in this hour and you're watching this recording or sometime down the line, feel free to engage in the CrowdSolve post in this one for the webinar in the comments. So the comment section will be open for discussion. If you want to talk with your fellow participants, particularly if you start working on this section of your project and you want any advice, you want to discuss it with anyone, feel free to get in there. We might also be sharing some additional readings in there. So remember, this year's webinars are organized around the different elements of the assessment criteria, and you will have to address the same topic in your own design process. So I encourage you all to ask as many questions of our panelists as possible while you have their attention. There's some real experts in this field. Today's session is particularly helpful. Today we're looking at business models, an essential part of your project, but as many of your teams are made completely of engineering students, many don't have experience with business models. So today's session is specifically looking at this question here, which can be found in your challenge brief. How well is your business model considered affordability, payment models, existing supply chains, manufacturing, distribution channels, local partners, and services associated? Consider the pricing cost strategies to make your business model commercially viable. So this will kind of be an introductory session to business models as well, because we haven't had one yet. Here's the agenda today. We only have about an hour for today's session. Right now we're going through the introductions, but I'll just in a moment, I'll introduce you to our speakers, and then we'll have a Q&A portion, and then our usual surveys and closing. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our speakers. We have 3 today. First off will be Masiya. Martin is a young entrepreneur and leader dedicated to providing quality and affordable solar energy solutions for Malawi's last mile communities. He has spent the last 2 years building a profitable solar distribution business model and a team of highly motivated staff and sales agents. Martin also has a track record of global advocacy and youth leadership. His work featured in the United Nations, UNICEF Africa, the International Renewable Energy Agency, and the UN Major Group for Children and Youth. He's working on the sectors of organizational management, sustainable development, green finance, and climate change management, with the goal of growing his enterprise to reach more people across Malawi. He's recognized as a rising young leader in the renewable energy sector in Africa, a winner of the 2020 Distribution Prize, fellow of the 2021 Nzisha Prize Fellowship, member of the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, Youth and Hadigal Family Foundation 2021 champion. So welcome, Martin. It's great to have you here. And he'll be speaking first. Maybe just wave. I think you have your name there, so it doesn't matter. But welcome. Next, we'll be hearing from Shripathi Hadigal. So Shripathi currently works as a program manager for the Global SDG 7 Hubs program at Selco Foundation. He's part of the team that develops the energy access implementation programs by replicating the learning and processes across different geographies with local partners. Prior to this, he was involved in the work pertaining to the applications of space technology in community development. He had co-founded a venture that worked towards developing supporting ecosystems for sustainable farming practices. Shripathi has master's in space technology from International Space University, France, and an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, Surathkal, India. Is that correct, Shripathi? So welcome, happy to have you here. And then finally, we'll be hearing from Julien Potron. So is Julien here? I don't know if you joined since then. Yeah, I can see you in the room. Julien has dedicated his career to solar, and with 15 years of experience in the global solar industry in Germany, China, and France, having served Jinko Solar Group during its takeoff period. Julien came back to launch a very ambitious African company focused on cutting-edge IoT innovations for the off-grid lighting in productive markets. Winners of many innovation prizes in Africa, Nadji.Bi has developed several connected smart solar solutions, from solar home systems to solar water pumps and milling machines, and has a complete research development lab as well as a manufacturing plant in Mbor, Senegal. So welcome, Julien. Welcome to all of our speakers. Happy to have you all here. And I won't take up any more time. We'll be hearing from Martin first. So why don't you take it away, Martin? Let me know when you want me to change the slide.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Martin. As I said, I'm founder of Sollys Energy, and I'll take you through Business Models 101. And yeah, Sean, you can go through to the next slide, I think. Yeah, so what is a business model? A business model is essentially the company's plan for making a profit. Two key elements are profit and value. So it's an explanation of how you plan to make a profit and how you plan to deliver value to your customers. And then it essentially outlines how the organization creates, delivers, and captures value in various aspects. So this could be economic, social, cultural, or any other context. Next slide, please. So why are they relevant? Why is the business model sort of like the foundational thing whenever you're venturing out, and why do you need to have a good business model? So what the business model does essentially is explain four core things, and that is the product or service the company will sell and how it intends to market that product or service, what kind of expenses it will face, and how it expects to turn a profit. So it's important because it provides investors with the knowledge about the competitive edge of the company. It places you above several competitors. It places you at a priority, maybe with some investors that you're in contact with. because they can see the value of your business and they can see how much impact it could have. And so a strong business model leads to great cash generation and future expansion. Next slide, please. So there are two tools that I would highly recommend for developing a business model. And the first tool is the 7-step model that I'm going to outline. So there's a business model design that you can use, like a process in 7 steps. And firstly, you define the problem that you're going to solve. So at this stage, you need to start looking at the problem you're going to solve. It can be a functional problem, but also an emotional problem, depending on the product and business model that you're creating. So for example, if you are a solar for productive use business, you can look at the problem that smallholder farmers in rural areas face. And then you can find 3 key problems that these communities face that you are willing to solve. You may prioritize this according to the most 3 important so that you can have the highest impact, or you can prioritize this according to the skills that you have that can determine your ability to solve these problems. And then you define the customers for which the problem will be solved for. So who are the people that are experiencing that problem? It's easy enough in energy access to make an assumption as to who your customer will be. Everyone else will assume that maybe it's a smallholder farmer, or it's a rural household, it's a rural business. But then, depending on your product or service, you may actually find out that your customer is actually an NGO that works with these farmers instead. So you need to really think about the customer for that product according to the cost, of course, that you incur to develop that product and how much you would sell it for. It would be impractical for example, a product that is worth $2,000 cash to have a main customer being a low-income household in a remote area, unless you have a plan for how that customer is going to pay for that product. So defining the customer is key to solving this problem and key to developing a business model. So you can also define a set of 3 types of customers maximum for the problems you defined in step 1. Ideally, for each problem will be matched with the customer type. So when you define the problem that you're going to solve in relation to the business that you're venturing into, you can then define a special type of customer that you may want to buy this product. At the same time, the same customer might experience multiple problems, or one problem can be experienced by different customer types. So you'd also have to take into consideration as well. And then you define the key customer and the key problem. So one among the top 3 customer types identified, and one or more of the top 3 problems identified, where you focus your attention. And the business model can evolve in many different ways, and narrowing down the course of action that leads to a better execution and experimentation of the business model. Thus, at this step, you have 1 key customer, or alternatively, 1 key problem that you choose to focus on out of 3 challenges that you identified. So you define a set of possible solutions that you have developed for these problems. For those 10, you narrow down to 3 that can be implemented with ease, without too many financial resources or time resources, or that could best be implemented with the expertise that you have. This is so this could be like a 1-day business model. So amongst the top 3 possible solutions that you've picked out according to your ability and according to the cost, you can pick 1 solution, and then you define a set of possible monetization strategies for that solution. So for the solution that you picked and the customer type, you'd have defined a product or a service. For that product or a service, you define the maximum of 5 possible monetization strategies. Keep 2, which can be quickly tested. So are you going to sell directly to consumers? Are you going to sell to suppliers to sell to consumers? Are you going to operate a flexible payment model? All these things will then come up at that point as a monetization strategy for that solution. And then you test and choose and see which works. So after that, if you test and choose, you go through solving the problems that you face, you iterate, and then you have a business model that that is valuable to your organization, and that could actually be well worth this 7-step process that I've outlined. So that is one way of going about it. The other way that I've also found very effective. Next slide, please. So this is sort of like a summary of the 7-step model. So it moves in a loop. You define the problem, you identify solutions, you test the solutions, and then you iterate. As long as you iterate, the sooner you go through that process, through that loop, then the sooner you are able to identify the business model that works best for your solution. So you define, identify, test, and iterate. Next slide, please. And yeah, so this is the second tool that that I would like to share with you, and this tool is something of a marvel when it comes to business model development. It's something that comes highly recommended for most startup entrepreneurs. It's something that also gives your business the in-depth analysis of what it is that you're actually trying to achieve with your business model. So this is the business model canvas, and it's a great tool really to help you understand a business model in a straightforward and structured way. Using this canvas would lead to insights about the customers you serve, the value propositions are offered, you offer through what channels, and how your company aims to make money, and so much more really. Next slide. So this is what a business canvas looks like. It's like a 9-part outline, like a table, where you list several things that you're going to do in your business. So if you can see properly, there's like numbers on the different parts of the business model canvas, and this helps you figure out what to start with first. So for example, you'd go from the customer segments. You look at the customer segments that provide the most revenue, and then you move to the value proposition, what your products and services are, and what is the job you get done for your customers. And then you'd move to revenue streams, how you're going to, what the top 3 revenue streams are. And if you do things for free, you'd also outline there as well on the revenue streams. And then you have your channels of communication, where how you communicate with your customers and how you deliver your value proposition. And customer relationships, how you will maintain them, and what sort of dynamic are you choosing to have with your customers. What key activities would you then do every day to run your business model? And key resources that you'd need to run your business. So the people, the knowledge, the means, the money that you need to run your business. And then key partners that you can't do the business without. So these are not exactly suppliers, but then people that you plan to work with to deliver your business model, to deliver the impact that you choose to that you want to manifest. And then the cost structure. At last, you list your top costs by looking at the activities and the resources. So this tool cannot simply explained in 30 or 60 seconds, but I would highly recommend you to head on to businessmodels.com and then look at it. Look at this tool. It's a free tool. It's accessible. It's easily accessible, and there's a step-by-step process that you can use to narrow down your business model, to refine it, and then to see the many ways in which you can actually materialize this. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I've got a couple of recommended resources, just two really. on the 7-step process of how to creating a business model, which helps you get a general understanding of what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then the step-by-step guide to creating a business canvas, and the free business canvas template that you can also use as well to really narrow down into what it is that you're going to do. So I think I've run out of content here, Sean.
That's perfect. No, that was great. So thank you, Martin. I think those are some really great tools as well for the students to kind of start building their own business model from, great templates to and basis to work from. Thank you. Really clear presentation. Thank you.
All right.
So if you have any questions for Martin, feel free to start sending them in the chat. But we also have this Q&A portion at the end, so that's where we'll answer everything. So see you there, Martin.
All right.
Thank you. Next up, oh, here's his contact details, by the way. And these slides will all be shared with you after. Next up, we have Shripathi. Would you like to take it away?
Thanks, Sean.
I'll have your slides here, so there you go.
All right, can you hear me? Perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. So thanks, Martin. I think it's quite interesting to sort of have the basics 101 of the business model. So what I'll sort of take you through is actually an actual business sort of case in terms of when you implement solar powered livelihood solution or productive use of energy solution, how do you sort of look at the business aspect or what's actually happening on the ground in order to provide the right technology, right financing model, right sort of training support, etc. So I've taken an example of something which is sort of which is easily comprehensible for everyone, which everyone sort of connects to it through an example of solar powered retail refrigeration for fishery. If you would go to the next slide, there'll be, I think, a lot of movements, Sean. This is just the structure of the presentation. Going to go through typology of entrepreneurs, typology of different businesses in case of retail fridges for fishery, and then how actually we need to look at the business models for these refrigerators owned by the entrepreneurs, and then one case study, and then also last and ending it with what we call as the ecosystem for livelihoods. Next slide, Sean. So I mean, the presentation was sort of made in such a way that it sort of has that flow one after another. So bear with me for a lot of slide changes. Anyway, just go forward, Sean. So refrigeration, as we know that when you think of an entrepreneur whose business can be accentuated, can be improved with the cold storage solution. It could be to keep milk and dairy products, cold beverages, fresh juice, ice creams, flowers, and also the fish. So just wanted to sort of bring the context of what are we talking about over here in terms of which business are we taking forward for the discussion. The next slide, please, Sean. So yeah, I think this is very critical. So I think one point that Martin mentioned was very important there is to understand the market, to understand who are our customers, right? So who are we talking about here? So if let's say if you are an entrepreneur who has who either a solar energy entrepreneur who is going to sort of install the solar powered fridges with your panels, or if you could be a manufacturer who is doing efficient fridges which essentially will go to the entrepreneurs in the end. In either cases, you have to understand your end user very well. In this case, we have considered some of the vulnerable small and micro entrepreneurs in the coast. So this, for example, the first typology is the fishermen with small boats who are catching the fish, probably around 100 to 150 kg of fish every day. Next, Sean. So, and yeah, I mean, where do they source the fish? They source it themselves, and their business is on the shore, and then sell it directly to the customers or to the bigger wholesalers. And also, and the most importantly, why do they need the cooling is to either store the bait or to actually keep the fish before they sell it to the wholesalers or retailers. So this is the first type of customers we're talking about. The next slide, you can actually go 2 slides. So the second type of entrepreneurs we're talking about are the entrepreneurs who sell fish in the market. I'm talking about these smaller markets in the coastal regions of India or in Tanzania or in other parts of the world as well, where they source the fish from either from a wholesaler or the sellers on the shore, and then they actually go inland and they sell the fish to the the communities. And why do they need the cooling? So to keep the fish fresh in the small shops in the market. So you see the difference, right? The first one was actually to keep the fish fresh on the boat. The second one is to actually keep the fish fresh in the market. And the next two slides are shown. And the third that we are talking about is actually the entrepreneurs who are inland, but they need cooling solution to keep the fish fresh at your home, which I think we'll sort of look at a case study as well, where imagine a small entrepreneur who buys the fish from the shore, from a big seller, and then goes inland and then keeps that fish in the refrigerator so that he or she can actually go to the households in the neighborhood villages and do the and sell the fish, and which we see in a lot of the cases in coastal part of India and in Africa as well. So yeah, next slide, Sean, if you just sort of representing in pictorial format. So home to home sellers of fish, the fish shops, and also the fishermen. So these are the three types of entrepreneurs or the business typologies that we are looking at when we are thinking of the business model. Go next, Sean. So yeah, I mean, where are these small refrigerators used in the local fishery value chain? So you can keep going slowly, Sean. So fisherman's home, as I said, to keep the bait fish or unsold fish, and then on the small boats to make sure that the fish is fresh, while it's offshore. Thirdly, at the coast to keep the fish fresh in the market, and then on the in the vehicle. I mean, surely we need it in the transit as well. We need cold storage, or we need refrigerators to keep the fish fresh. Then also finally at the entrepreneur's home or the shop. So the difference between your 3 and 4 is the number 3 is where you the entrepreneurs sell it at the coast itself. The business model changes because the pricing is different when you're actually selling inland, where the prices actually go up because you're away from the shore as well. Go next, Sean. So yeah, I mean, the final case is actually these entrepreneurs who actually take it on a motorbike or on a bicycle to actually go and sell it to the neighborhood villages, where you again need a small refrigerator or ice pack solution to keep the fish cool and fresh. So these are the 3 we sort of are considering for our our case in the next few slides to really understand the business, and then really sort of looking at what type of technology would make sense to them. Yeah, I think as I said, these are the 3 type of businesses. If you go next, Sean, and the technology that we are looking at, let's say a 200-liter solar powered DC fridge or a 300-liter solar powered DC fridge. Now this slide is important. Why I sort of brought in the technology aspect after talking about the business models is technologies are available. It's not that you don't have a solar powered refrigerator. There is 150-liter, 100-liter, 200-liter, 300-liter. Even you have up to 5 metric ton, the cold storage solutions that can be powered with solar. But then what matters is what is the type of customer, what is the type of entrepreneur that you're looking at, based on which you make a deduction on what type of technology is sort of suitable. So in this case of what I'm talking about, a fisherman who fishes around 100 to 150 kilograms a day, and probably for an entrepreneur, as you can see here in the picture, small spaces, probably 30 to 50, 30 by 40 feet of small stores where the entrepreneur keeps the fish. That's where the 200 or 300-liter refrigerators would sort of make sense. Go next, Sean. Then I think now to understand how does a solar refrigerator help in improving the business of these entrepreneurs, because this is very critical when you're actually creating a financial model or choosing the right technology for the entrepreneurs. If you go next, so yeah, it does help the entrepreneurs in 3 aspects: by decreasing by reducing the input and transaction cost for the entrepreneur, by increasing the output for the entrepreneur, and increasing the product range and quality. I mean, if you remember what Martin was saying, the sort of very basics of businesses itself. When do you make profit? When you reduce your input and transaction costs, obviously, or you increase your output by selling more or selling at higher prices, and then finally increasing your product range. You have product A, B, C, but you've added D, E, F because of your cold storage, so that your income increases by that. So if you go next, Sean, sort of next 2 slides actually. And the next one as well. So this sort of looks at different areas or different ways in which the income increase happens. either by savings on the bait because you have a cold storage right now. It increases the quantity of purchase at the lower cost because you are confident that you can store the fish now, so you can have a bargaining power when you're buying the fish from a bigger seller. Similarly, you got lower transaction costs because most of these entrepreneurs who go and buy the ice to keep the fish fresh, right? And they have to do it multiple times, go to a nearby town and get the ice pack and come back, or get the ice cubes and come back. Now all these transaction costs have been reduced, and it increases the output by increasing the shelf life of the fish, and the fisherman and or the entrepreneur can actually wait now to sell the fish when the prices are higher, and also the product loss is lesser because the ice cubes will result in melting of water and the fish quality would reduce. And then finally, also because I've got a refrigerator right now, I can actually go for a higher quality or a special sort of a species of fish which costs higher for me to buy, but I was not buying earlier because I was not confident whether I sell it or not. But in this case, I am, because there is the cold storage, so that the product range is also increased, the diversity is also increased. Go ahead, Sean. So now coming to the business model itself, next slide. So how is it actually helping the entrepreneur? So now this is a business model sort of landscape that we consider when we are doing it. I understanding the business of the entrepreneur. Now the first row is actually the pre-intervention. Before you intervene with your solar fridge, their buying price was a little higher, $20 a day, $20 per kg for 20 kgs a day. I've converted everything into US dollars just to have like a uniform currency. I mean, it could be in rupees, it could be in Tanzanian shillings, it could be in other currencies as well. And then input cost for buying the ice is around $1.5 a day. And then you are selling it at around $28. So you see there is some bit of a profit for the entrepreneur. And then there is not much of a product variety because you don't have the cold storage solution with you. Go forward for the next 3 slides, Sean. It's just easier. Yeah. Now, after the intervention, what happened is the entrepreneur is actually buying the fish instead of $20 a day, is actually buying it $17.5 a day, thus saving around $2.5 a day. Why? As for the reasons I mentioned before, right? So now they can buy a larger quantity, and so that they can bargain well, and also they can buy it whenever the price is lower because they don't have to wait for the weekends. I mean, in many cases in coastal part of India, the fishermen go to the larger fisher market to buy only in the weekends and the prices are higher. So in this case, they can go whenever the price is lower and buy it off. And secondly, input costs, they were spending around $1.5 a day for the ice every day. Now that has become zero in this case. So they are saving around $1.5 already a day because of that. Thirdly, because now they have the ability to wait and sell, or also because they have a longer shelf life, they're not using the money, losing the fish because of wastage. Now they are selling it at a little higher cost as well, around $30, which is helping them to earn $2 a day more. Then finally, this is very interesting. What we saw in our the around 50 plus refrigerators we have done for fishermen is that now they can actually go for special variety of fish, which costs higher, but also sells at the higher price. Now, because they have a cold storage, they can actually afford it, and they make sure that even if they don't get sold, they can keep it, with themselves. So the next slide actually sort of, brings it all together. This actually from the experience of what we have done over here, Selco Foundation has done with entrepreneurs, and also some of our programs in Tanzania as well, is looking at around around $250 per month increase in revenue because of less spoilage, lesser visits to the town, so that the transaction cost is reduced, and also by improving having more variety of fish being sold at the market as well. So if when you are an entrepreneur, let's say you are a solar entrepreneur who wants to actually implement a solar refrigerator with your panels for a micro entrepreneur, you will have to sort of look at all these aspects and while you're creating a model. So go next, Sean. So I think just go next. This is an actual, I mean, you can go to for the few slides actually. It's an actual example in coastal India. I mean, it was not a case that was just taken from the air, but it's actually a case, that we had done in the coastal part of India with a very, vulnerable rural entrepreneur in the southern part of India, where, with 200-liter fridge covering around six villages nearby, selling it to the customers. I mean, this is actually the case from here. And that's the fridge you see in the picture where the fish, has been stored. The next one. Yeah, I think I already mentioned the sort of challenges what the entrepreneur had earlier, the inconsistency in terms of local markets, and then having the higher input and transaction costs, high spoilage of the fish, and also having to visit the town more frequently. So the solution was a 200-liter fridge. The next slide, I think I'm running out of time, so I think I have this last slide. Just the next slide. But what is very important is it's not just the technology, it's not just the business model. If this has to make sense on the ground for the long-term sustainability, it has to have all these different components. I think being an entrepreneur, it's very important that what aspects do you bring in, but at the same time, what other aspects you sort of leverage from the others. The servicing and maintenance is so critical because you're talking about communities' livelihood. So you got to make sure that once the solution is installed, a long-term sustainable servicing and maintenance aspect is developed, and then the entrepreneurs know how to use it. Even as simple as don't open the door so many times. Those type of sort of capacity building needs to be done so that the technology remains suitable for the entrepreneur. The financing model has to be developed based on the business model. I think that's a whole different discussion. Probably we can have later. And then you need to have a strong community-based organization to mobilize the entrepreneurs, mobilize the communities as well. And then obviously the technology and the local enterprise that will do these solutions. So yeah, I think I know probably some things would have gone fast, but the slides will be shared with you, and if there's any question even today or even going forward, we'll be very happy to share. Thanks, Sean and Abby. Yeah.
Thanks, Shripathi. I think really highlighting the importance of understanding your end user and your market that you're operating in. So that's a really important aspect of all your business models. We did a little bit about identifying your end user in a I think very early on, one of our first webinars of the year. So when you're considering your business model, you can always refer back to that webinar as well to try to really understand them. But yeah, thank you, Shripathi, about really targeting your business model so that it works effectively. I think really important. If you have any questions for Shripathi, he's around for the Q&A, so please just send those in the chat or raise your hand. But last but not least, we have Julien, who will be presenting. Julien, I don't believe you have any slides today. I would just stop sharing my screen now. Is that correct? Yeah. If you have your own slides, you can always share them. Julien, there you go. Hi, we can hear you.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to fix the video.
Great.
All right. So
Yep.
Hello, everyone. So nice to be with you guys. So I was told earlier that my presentation was due late, so I will go on without it. No, the main purpose was mainly to actually discuss the fact of building a business model based on some assumption. I mean, all of you guys, you may probably already are thinking about something, about the good, about a service that could provide something that could impact the customer, the community, and that may be a very great idea. The question now, when you are going for business and modeling and for expanding this idea into something real, is to ask you the right question, and is to also do the right planification. And it's always very, very difficult when you lack some experience, when you lack some contacts, when you lack some information. That's why the very important aspect of building a business model, as this was just shown to you on the prior presentation, is to get the real data, the data from the field. And when I mean data from the field, is data from your potential customer, is to be able to gather enough information to understand all your idea or all the service or the goods you are thinking about developing or about bringing to the market are going to make some profit. Because at the end of the day, you may provide, invent, develop some great ideas, great services, great goods, machines, whatever. But if there is no profitability on top of it, even if the profitability is low, then no investors, nobody is going to provide you any support, maybe some grants here and there, but at the end of the day, the goal of every supporter is that your business will scale, will develop, will be able to impact as much as possible stakeholders. And so the issue is to find out where is the money, and that is a very, very important question once going for business modeling. And sometimes, as you just saw, the pattern of your customers are already established, meaning that they are already paying for something that is probably providing them sort of satisfaction, maybe not as much as they could afford, but at the end of the day, for example, you know, nature doesn't like emptiness. I don't know to say it properly in English, but meaning that if there is a need somewhere, probably it's already fulfilled with something. Probably this something in our developing countries is not very satisfying for the customer, for the beneficiaries, but at the end of the day, do they have any choice? So what you would develop, what you would provide as a solution, as an alternative, should be much better, for sure, should be much more satisfying in terms of maybe money, maybe not. Maybe it's only saving time for the customer. So if you provide something that saves time for the customer, they will probably be able to pay a bit more. So all of the things, all of this data and information, the market itself should provide it to you. So don't be afraid to go on the field, to spend many, many time to understand where is the money, how does the money move from here to there. And starting from here, I will explain you a bit the business that we are developing here, thanks to the support of efficiency for access. This is a solar milling solution for grain processing. And in in Senegal, where we are, excited. So this is a cereal full of vitamin and everything. And it's actually the one that grows in our Sahelian region, pretty much all over the place. And the question here is that the grain is growing in a very aggressive environment, so it needs to be processed before we can eat it. And the issue is that, as you know, electricity is not everywhere, and people don't have much solution, so they have to do it manually, or because it's very constrained, it takes a lot of time and effort, and it's very bad for the health, and mainly the women or the girls are doing it. The other solution is to take a cart and to go to the city or to go somewhere where electricity is available to process, and you'll have to pay for it too. So at the end of the day, you see the need is here. There are solutions, but probably there is a better solution, or something that is maybe the same cost, maybe even a bit higher in terms of costing, but that will bring an extra benefit to the beneficiaries, to the customer. And this is where we offered a solution of a solar hub providing grain processing services and also extra services, because since you have a solar hub, a small, you know, a shop with solar panels, you'll be able to provide other services on top of grain processing. And we figured out that the main value added that we are bringing through this business model is to actually, as it was shown with the solar fridge, is to cut distances from the need to the service. Distance in countries where we don't have cars, we don't have good logistics, distance is a lot of time, and it's also a lot of pain when you have to travel by foot, walking, or by horse cart, donkey cart, whatever, even motorcycle. It's very difficult. It's a lot of time, and yeah, it's not easy. So the fact to be able to bring a service nearer to the households, to the beneficiaries, is something that is impacting a lot. And this is where the money is. Because if you stand at the customer point of view, then, you know, the service will be a huge value added to what they are used to. So, and the question for us from the beginning, when we pilot, and you have to pilot You know, once you gather the information, when you have a picture which is never 100% of reality, you have to test something. You have to experiment it. You have to get the real information, not only the one you receive from interview or from discussion or from research. You need to have the real information, which is money, you know, which is who and when and how much are the people can the people pay for what you are providing. And you know, PowerPoint research is always good, but at the end of the day, the market never lags. So this is something you really need to assess, and this is something that will give you the right idea about how to improve your business model. It's always something to be very aware of. The one you write in a business plan alone, or you know, even with your information, the one that is going to be the version of your business model, which is going to be during the pilot, and probably the business model which is going to be the one for scaling are going to be a way different. Probably the need existing in the market is the same, but the solution and the way you market it is going to be different from the beginning to the end. It's going to evolve, and you have to be ready for that. You have to be open enough to understand that sometimes if the market is behaving a bit different to what you expected, you need to adapt. And without any, you know, it's the main value added of an entrepreneur, to be able to adapt not only to the market, but to the technology evolution, to the culture, to the competitors, and to every solution that is going to come. So that is something that is also very important to understand. What you write in a business model is not forever. It's not something you have to stick it to, you know, it's a guideline. It's something that is going to guide your potential investor, to give some, you know, some guidance, and also for you to be able to iterate, to come back to it and to see, okay, where am I? You know, maybe I have to change a bit here. Maybe, okay, I realize that the price is not the one you know, the first one was not the right one. I have to adapt. So let's change it. Does it work? Does your financial assessment work if you decrease the price? Is there any way to increase your profit somewhere by adding an extra services to what you are selling? So is there another payment term that you have to think about, you know, to improve your business model? So those assumptions, those openness to change, to adaptation are very, very important. So this is something you have to be like a sponge in a way, you know, to absorb any information and to be able to adapt your model from day to day. So always, if I would summarize it, where is the money? And be able to adapt, you know, be able to adapt. And of course, all those guidelines, all those documentation are very key to follow where you stand, you know, write it down, use the business model, use the business canvas, use all those tools, but from day to day, you know, go back to it, change a bit, adapt it. Sometimes some investors, they may look for some particular specification. If your business model is able to show it to the investor, nice. If your business model doesn't suit to it, you know, it means that those are not the investor you are looking for. You know, don't change your business model for an investor. Your business model have to be changed from the market itself. The customer, the market never lies. The market is always true. Are you able to collect money to make profit from what you are selling, what you are providing to the market? But if an investor is asking you to change your business model because his assumption, his culture, his target is something different, look for another investor, you know, because what you have, the value added you have, is the knowledge you have from the market. So this is very important to understand. And it doesn't have to create any frustration into you, you know. Be an entrepreneur is the potential to be frustrated is huge, you know, because you have motivation, you have passion, And sometimes the reality tells you that, you know, maybe your direction is wrong, or maybe the partners you are looking for are not the right one. That's okay. You know, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. So at the end of the day, try to adapt. Try to be very humble about what you design and always listen to the market. So I will not keep more time, you know, and I could speak forever. So I give you back the mic. Sure.
Thanks, Julien. Really good. Important to be adaptable. And it seems, yeah, everyone is agreeing that you really have to listen to your market, understand your market when you're developing your business model. So everyone needs to understand that going through. I'm just going to share my screen now. Again, we have a few minutes for Q&A. So thank you, Julien. My fault again. Sorry for letting you know about the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation so late, but pulled it off very cleanly. So thank you. Okay, so everyone send in your questions or raise your hand if you have any. We're open to it, and I'll be reading them from the chat as well. And if Jackie receives any, feel free to jump on. But while we have our speakers here, jump on in. We have one here. If you do not have, I think, open to the, this is fairly general, so open to the panel. If you do not have direct access to your market, to your target end user or market, how do you begin to tailor your business model? With, I guess this is if you're planning for your market to be in a country different from yours, for example. Does anybody have any feedback on that? Maybe we could start with Julien.
Yes. Well, that's something which is which could be tricky because you may have some bias, some way to understand or to figure out things that are not real or that are slightly different to the reality. So I would say the main advice is just to go there, you know, confront you to the reality. That's the key. You cannot address a market remotely. You cannot understand a customer or serve him the best you would like to if you are not in touch with him directly. So that's even if it's a short trip to actually confirm your assessment or your first, you know, ideas. Go for it because, and don't rely on people or middlemen people, middle person, people that tell you, no, the right people you have to address are your potential customers. They are the one that know exactly what they need. So that's very important. Maybe if you have any hypothesis, it will tell you if those are wrong or right, or if those are in the right direction or not. So, but it's always, I never experienced any entrepreneurs being able to develop the right business model without being in touch, without knowing deeply their customer first, you know.
Okay, get in touch with those people that you want to target. Thank you, Julien. We have another question here, maybe for Martin. Are there elements of a business model that are most attractive to potential funders? Oh, you're just on mute, Martin. Can't hear you.
Could you repeat that?
Are there elements of a business model that are most attractive to potential funders? Some sort of thing that comes.
Okay, that is an interesting question. Yes and no, because funding is like a wide pool, right? So you're dealing with various, you know, investors, you know, various organizations, bilateral organizations that have a wide variety of interests. So some investors will look to invest in the technology that you're offering. Some investors may look to invest in the impact that you're offering. Some investors may choose to invest in actually your customers because they realize that that's their way of getting, you know, to positive impact. So I would not really say that there's a specific thing, but like I said, the business model is about 1, profit, 2, value. So profit highlights how profitable the business model is going to be. Value highlights how relevant, how much impact that thing is going to have on its recipients, on its customers. So focus on having a business model that is as complete as it can be. Narrow down on the specifics of what you're trying to do. If you're trying to develop a technology, make this the best technology that you can make it. If you're trying to develop a delivery plan for your product, make sure that this delivery plan is foolproof. It's effective, it's cost effective, and it utilizes the least amount of resources that it can. So look at all these elements that I've offered, especially using the business canvas. Make sure that you have done the best, for each of these segments, because you never really know what a specific investor is looking for. You may have an idea of what they're looking for, but even if they have something specific that they're looking at, a weakness, in the other aspects of your business model may actually set you at a disadvantage. So please just focus on, making it, the best that it can be, because at the end, it's not only about the investors, it's also about your customers, it's about the market, it's about your business, it's about your entrepreneurship. So that's what I think my thoughts on that would be.
Okay. Thank you, Martin. Thank you. I think really some concrete advice for all of our students. Were there any other questions? I know we're coming up to time, but I know Shripathi is just having to drop out now. Thank you for coming. He's in a meeting right now, but does anybody have any questions before we close? No? Okay. Well, then I first would like to thank all of our speakers for coming today. It was a great presentations. I think a great introduction to business models. I hope this was really helpful to all of our students. So thank you for coming. And as usual, we have some closing asks of you. So we have this short feedback survey that's really helpful for us in developing these webinars, improving them as we go forward. So whether you're watching now, it'll just take 1 minute to do right now. Just scan with your phone or follow the link here or in the chat. Just takes a moment. And if you're watching the recording, please do this when you're watching the recording. But yeah, that's really helpful to us. I'll leave that up for 1 second just so people can get this down. Okay. And finally, we have the newsletter sign up. So this is all helpful for whether you need information on the challenge. It keeps up to date with all the webinars. We have stories coming out, different deadlines, like our prototype window closing on March 6th. So get your prototype funding applications in. We have a webinar on Monday. These all things are coming out in the webinar, in the newsletter regularly. We just had a newsletter come out, I think, yesterday. So look out for that one. But yeah, this is great to keep up to date with everything on the challenge. But other than that, there's nothing else to go through. Thank you to all of our speakers again, Martin, Shripathi, Julien. It was great to have you here. And we hope to see you again in the future. Thanks to all the students, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye, everyone.